Hello there. Today I'm lucky enough to be tasting some wines from Italy, from the Veneto, from the Valpolicella region, and the wines I'm trying are Amarones, and this is the classic Amarone. This is Masi's Costasera Amarone, and this is the 2018 vintage of that. Now Masi are a large Italian producer. They make over 1 million cases of wine a year, predominantly from the Valpolicella region, but from elsewhere in the Veneto as well, and I believe they have some holdings in Tuscany, in Oltrepò Pavese, and also in Argentina. So they're quite a major producer, but they have very much specialised in producing Valpolicellas, and particularly in the styles of Valpolicellas that are made using the ancient Roman technique of Appassimento, drying the grapes. So there are Amarones, there are Reciotos, and they also make some Ripasso Valpolicellas. The company was founded back in 1772 in the Vaio de Masi. It belonged to one family for the entire of its existence, and it's currently being run by the 6th and 7th generations of the Boscaini family. They do make a couple of very high quality, quite expensive single vineyard wines, but their benchmark wine is the Costasera, and they also make a Reserva version of that. So the Appassimento technique is a very traditional technique that's been built up over years, and basically it's drying the grapes. So healthy grapes are picked, not picking too late. Although these wines have quite high alcohols, that's not coming from late harvesting, that's coming from concentration of the grapes as they're dried. So you're looking to pick the grapes while they've still got good acidity, when there's no presence of rot, so they need to be completely healthy, and then they're dried. Drying takes place traditionally in lofts, so that the drying is going on indoors, so you're not drying in sunlight, but the tradition of drying in a loft was so that this would be above any fog or mist levels that might surround the barns in which this happened, so you dry the grapes in the lofts to be above that. These days producers will use humidity controlled rooms to a far greater extent, and only the top wines really are dry in the more old-fashioned situation of being in lofts. The grapes are placed as whole bunches on bamboo trays and put into these drying rooms, and the period of desiccation will last around 100 days, 3 to 4 months. And the idea is to see a loss of somewhere between 30 and 40% of volume due to desiccation. And what this does, of course, you're losing water, is that it concentrates the tannins, it concentrates the sugars and the acidity and colour in the wines. And also, of course, you get a period of almost maceration as the grape sits there, the inside of its skin exposed to the flesh of the grape. Now this particular wine comes from hillsides facing Lake Garda, facing west and southwest in Murano Negra, San Ambrogio and San Pietro in Carino. Vineyard soil types are principally red limestone soils with Cretaceous marl, and these are quite friable soil types. The fruit, of course, is hand-picked, with quite a high degree of selection required to get rid of any unripe or any unhealthy fruit. The blend of this wine, I believe, is 70% of Corvina, 25% of Molinara and 5% of Rondinella, so all traditional Veneto varieties. Winemaking follows the usual pattern. Once the grapes have been dried, they're crushed and fermentation and maceration occurs, presumably in stainless steel tank with, I should imagine, some temperature control. An important factor in ensuring the fermentations are clean and healthy, though, is the use of vigorous yeasts. So normally a yeast strain called Saccharomyces baianus is chosen. That's actually a yeast that's vigorous enough to survive and prosper and ferment in the really high sugar levels that these concentrated grape musts have when the fermentation starts. The wine is aged for 28 to 30 months, some of it in stainless steel and the balance in Slavonian oak, large oak casks, so 600, 1,000 litres. And the standard size is used, evidently. So this is not a wine that's looking for an overt oak influence. It's more a question of the oxygen that permeates through the barrel, just gently fixing colours and tannins and flavours in the wine through a process of controlled oxidation. The wine, I assume, is unfined because we're told it's suitable for vegetarians. So let's see what we make of it, shall we? Looking at the colour, there's a good depth of quite bright ruby red, almost a sort of a hint of purple in there, but mostly ruby. I can see the stem of the glass as I look down through it. I'm swirling the wine. It's 15% alcohol. and I'm expecting this to reflect the concentration that we've been talking about here. And actually, eventually, yes, some quite thick tears do form on the glass, but because of the wine's viscosity, they take a while to reveal themselves. So let's see what we make of the aromas, shall we? The aromas are very rich, very ripe. There's a very ripe sort of slightly almost stewed plum. There's almost a balsamic note to it. There's ripe red cherries, but there is that savoury, high-toned note as well. Now that's they talk about these as being wines of contemplation. There's plenty to think about there, and it's sort of savoury, slightly spicy, very warm, rich sort of notes. So let's taste. The point about these wines, Amarone is pretty much dry. They'll have 6, 7, 8 grams per litre sugar at most, unlike the Recioto, which is the sweeter version of this. But there's a lovely richness and a ripeness that at first almost seems like a sweetness. And then you've got this more sort of savoury, spicy, almost hints of sort of charcoal in there, touches of sort of forest floor and leather. There's a little bit of development. And then the palate opens up and there's this rich, ripe red cherry. Behind that, there's the cooked plum notes. There are perhaps some hints of sort of mushroom truffle notes just starting to reveal themselves at the back there. There's a freshness that goes right the way through and is giving those sort of lifted red cherry notes at the finish. There's a concentration. This is a big wine, lifted by that 15% alcohol. There's concentrated fruit. There's a lovely fine structure. There's a velvetiness to the structure. Velvetiness, maybe cocoa powder as well. The finesse of the whole thing is lovely. The intensity of the flavours is lasting really nicely. The alcohol at 15% isn't overpowering the fruit. There's plenty of ripe concentrated fruit. This is sort of a rich, warm mid-palate with good density, but it's more on a sort of a rich red fruit side of things. It's that very high ripeness red cherries, it's the rich plum notes, and touches of spicy developed notes, perhaps a little bit of nutmeg, a little bit of cinnamon, perhaps showing some of the oak, but also notes, as I say, of truffle, of mushroom, of forest floor. They're just starting to peek through, not pronounced, but they are starting to be there. So there's plenty to discuss in the wine. It's a complex wine, it's powerful, and it has reasonable balance. I wouldn't really think that it's elegant, but everything is beautifully harmonious. And the point is that these wines will age for up to and beyond 30 years because they've got such concentration, the alcohol is there to support them, and the acidity is pretty good as well. So then with bottle age they can develop elegance and secondary notes that can become more lifted and more perfumed as they age. So having said all that, I'm looking at the fact that the Wine Searcher aggregated critics score is for this vintage of this wine is 91. I don't think this wine would have any difficulty aging and gaining that extra complexity. I think maybe that 91 is reflecting a wine that hasn't really reached its full potential yet. So I might hope that it would get to a level where it might deserve a higher score than that. So thank you very much for taking the time to join us. I do hope you found the tasting of interest. If you've enjoyed it, please press the like button. If you have friends you think might like to watch it, please do tell them, please do share it with them, that would be fantastic. If you'd like to watch more of the videos, please do sign up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We would really appreciate your support. If you have any comments, please leave those in the comments box below. Again, your feedback is of value to us. We'd love to know what you think about the wines we're looking at, the tastings we're doing, or anything else related to that. I'll leave a link in the notes to this vintage of this wine on the Wine Searcher website, so you can find it there. You can see where it's available, what its price is, and you can see the critics' reactions to it and other background information that we have for it. So yes, thank you again for joining us, and do please try and take some time, come and join us again for another tasting in the near future, won't you? Bye for now.